At some point, the Russians will push and push and push, and they'll do something which forces a NATO country to respond by shooting down one of their aircraft, and that will be a very critical and a very dangerous moment. We're living in a very dangerous time. It's a very positive response from Ukraine. I mean, what the Ukraine's been doing with their new systems, particularly both their drones and their own now indigenous missile systems, is attacking Russian infrastructure, particularly oil infrastructure. And in that, they have been very successful, which is why I think the Russians are rattled by this, because oil is one of the few things that they can still get out of the country, partly through legitimate sales, partly through what you might call third-party sales or other country sales, and they're using that as a means of sustaining their warfare. So when Ukraine disrupts that, it's a major blow to Russia. So this is very serious, and we can link it to the drone incidents over Poland recently, incursions into Romanian airspace, and of course the three MiGs which flew over Estonian airspace. So the sense is the whole time that we have been tested. Now, we don't know absolutely at the moment who was controlling these drones, which appeared over both Copenhagen and Oslo Airport. But it is a reasonable guess that at least one plausible explanation for it is all linked again, and it's part of a wider Russian plan to destabilize and push our defenses and push our ability to respond to such incidents. I think we are all very vulnerable. I mean, we live in a very sophisticated world where, and you know when you travel abroad, if you find that you may be halfway across the world, but if you hear your aircraft has been delayed by 12 hours, you get frustrated by that. And I think it's a normal response. We're so used to it. So we live in this very sophisticated, very complicated world. The effect of that is that if someone decides to disrupt us, it's very easy so to do. And very rapidly, it kind of creates an atmosphere where people are thinking, actually things are going really badly wrong. And that's what Russia is able to exploit. It can exploit our sophistication, the complications of our infrastructure and our devices, very simply, whether it be cyber attacks, whether it be flying drones over an airport. It can actually create an atmosphere of distrust, of distress, subversion and sabotage very quickly and very rapidly. And that, I think, is exactly what is going on at the moment. Russia is testing our defenses, testing our resilience, testing our infrastructure to see where our points of weakness are. And of course, the net effect of that is destabilizing, which is exactly what he wants. At some point, the Russians will push and push and push, and they'll do something which forces a NATO country to respond by shooting down one of their aircraft, and that will be a very critical and a very dangerous moment. It will probably be in such a way that it will have a kind of an ability for the Russians to back out of it. They may just choose to respond, but if they'll see what the response is, and they'll see whether the response is either vigorous enough or whether they've got, if like, the will within Russia to push it still further. So I think they will do something that eventually provokes a NATO country into responding. And the point of all that, of course, it's incredibly dangerous, because you then quickly move into Article 5 territory, and then if you're not careful, you end up with a more general conflict. It's worth noting, and of course this may also be linked to what's going on at the moment in Denmark and in Norway, that NATO leaders are meeting as we speak in Brussels to discuss what's happening in Estonia. So no doubt this what's happening, what we're discussing now about the drones over Oslo and over Copenhagen are being discussed by NATO leaders indeed as we speak. So it's all part of this general pattern of destabilize, push, test our resilience, test our defences, and see how we might respond. Poland is literally a frontline state. I mean, it has put a significant amount of money into its defences, but because of where it sits, and it has a Russian exclave, Kaliningrad, as part of its borders, and it has Belarus as part of its borders as well. And I think that's the challenge that it's got. It sees itself as being very vulnerable, and of course Ukraine, its neighbour, has been attacked, and now they've had incursions as well. So I think Poland is just basically trying to get the message across to Russia that we will respond, and the hope that kind of deterrence plus their own defences will actually make the Russians think again. I'm not sure it will. I think that the Russians may decide not to push into Poland, but they'll push somewhere else, as indeed they did by going into one of the Baltic countries as well. Rhetorically, I think European leaders, partly under recognising the pressure of Putin, partly under pressure from the President of the United States, have recognised that this era, 10 years, 20 years, 30, even 40 years, of continuing reducing our defence expenditure has come to an end, and that we now have in Putin's Russia a challenger to our idea of kind of peace and security in Europe. But so the rhetoric, I think, is caught up, and at least if you listen to what people are talking about, people say Russia is a direct threat to us. But has that been reflected in our defence expenditure? The answer is no. I mean, I can only really quote our own government, but they're talking about increasing their defence expenditure 2.5% of GDP by 2027, moving to 3.5% by 2035, plus another 1.5% spent on so-called defence infrastructure, which frankly could be anything they choose, because they'll say, oh, it's all about national resilience. Those timelines just don't work. I mean, a lot of analysts and particularly people who are closer to the Russian guerrilla, that's the phrase that the Poles use, the Russian guerrilla than we are saying that Russia will be prepared to attack a NATO country by 2027, in which case we are woefully ill-prepared and to deal with it. So we have this huge rhetoric and reality gap at the moment, which is incredibly worrying. And we're looking for somebody, and I'm not sure who is going to be, to say, enough of this, and we now need to reorganise and restructure to defend ourselves properly. I struggle to see who is going to do that within our own country at the moment, given all the other challenges that the government has said it's got. But that's kind of what we need. I say, they're talking the talk at the moment, but they are frankly not walking the walk. The phrase people like myself use is kind of grey zone or hybrid warfare, which is where we are at the moment. And this could last for a long period of time, and it could go up and it could go down. In other words, so the virulence and then the retreat could carry on for a long period of time. The danger and the difficulty is if this then somehow phases in or moves on, morphs into more direct conflict. But even then, there might be a period when there could well be some direct conflict between one or two members, but not a general war, always with a kind of get out clause. But the danger always is that you can't, sometime you can't switch off the machine. I mean, that's basically what happened in the First World War. They'd had this period of tension we forget. I think we are in this kind of dangerous era of tension and testing the whole time, which could then effectively move into a more general war. It only takes one more action by them, and I think we could end up with a shooting match between ourselves and a Russian aircraft. On that has consequences which I think we can all recognise.